The clamor for community policing has since the NSAS protest gained more traction. Many believe that if the system was in place, the level of destruction witnessed in the aftermath of the protest would have been minimized, and it would have been easier curtailing the criminal activities of burglars, looters, and arsonists. Well, the Oyo State government is taking up the challenge to tackle growing insecurities. The state governor last week inaugurated the Amotekun Corps. He says the State Security Network Agency is now fully operational. The security outfit will help combat crimes in collaboration with the police and other federal security agencies. Well, joining me in the studio is the co-founder, Amotekun, and a coalition of Oodua self-determination groups, Razak Olukoba. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good morning. Good morning, listeners.
Thank you very much for joining us at this point. Looking at the NSAS protest and, of course, how things turned out. If we had a community policing force, will we have that kind of situation that we had in the aftermath?
Well, it's not as if community policing will shoot guns better than the federal police. That's all we are saying. What we are saying is that the familiarity of community policing and the populace is more healthy and helps security better than the federal.
How will that help security better?
Because if someone who understands the terrain, who understands the values, the culture of the area, better secures a community than a stranger. That's the universal knowledge that we know, that if you don't understand the terrain, it will be difficult. Even in war, you will see that the armed forces will send intelligence officers to the place to know the terrain, such that they will be able to know where to tread, where not to tread. So that's about policing too. Policing also is also about familiarity. If a particular state is presided over by people who are from that community, during the NSAS protest, it is clear that familiarity between the protester and the security agent will reduce the damage it will have done. And it's clear.
Okay.
If you have strange officers coming to confront you when you are leading the protest, it's a natural barrier. You don't understand each other. But with a familiar officer who understands the history of your agitation, you explain things to each other. And we have left protest several times, occasions that we see familiar faces of a security agent, and demands were made, discussions were held, and both parties became happy. So what we are saying in essence is that it is important to recognize that there are peculiarities in security, and that peculiarity is better sorted out by people of that area. We keep repeating that 36 states of the Federation, the same style and strategy of security permutation will not solve it. Every state has its own peculiarity, and it can better be addressed by the people of that state. A federal structure, why will you have federal government, state government, and local government, and you refuse to admit that federal government laws that were made that were enforced by federal police? Federal police cannot enforce state laws as appropriately as a state police will enforce it, as appropriately as a local government police will enforce its own local laws. Because you are going to be part of the policy of that government, you better interpret it to the people. But the federal police, who doesn't even understand the history of that state, who doesn't know the culture of that state, we fall into what the crisis we fall into today. Many security situations that got out of hand, it's not because the police were bad, or it's not because the people have an affront against the police officer, but because language barrier at times.
But can't the police structure and the community policing structure marry themselves? Let's have the community police entrenched in the federal police structure, such that we use this means to kill some other issues.
That's the knowledge people don't have about state police. They thought the state police...
Not necessarily having state police, but no, at least having the structure of the community policing entrenched in the federal policing units.
That is how we are. That's how it's supposed to work.
Okay.
The federal police will oversee, naturally, the activities of the state police. Just like how president oversees the affairs of the governor, that if you want to act outside the constitution, the president has a right to declare a state of emergency in your state. In the same vein, there will be a law that will bind the federal and the state police together to be able to determine who is the owner of a particular case, a particular crime. This crime belongs to me. This crime. There will be that work relationship. State police cannot operate independently. And that's the fear of the people that once you have a state police, you have your own republic. No, that's not what we are saying. Federal police will consistently have the power. That's how it must be structured. Have the power to federalize any state police that act outside the constitution of Nigeria. Don't act outside the constitution that bind policing in Nigeria. And constantly, there will be engagement between the federal, the state, and the local. There will be engagement. There will be exchange programs to understand the security situation of the task so that it will inform the IG. Particular instruction is going to issue out to a particular state. The state police will advise the federal police, such that the IG will not consistently be issuing one instruction to preside over 36 states of the federation. And that's where the error comes from. IG is in Abuja. If we issue one instruction, there will be no roadblock. There will be no roadblock again in 36. That's wrong. There are states who in Nasarawa, APC leader just got killed in Nasarawa state. In that kind of state, you cannot apply all things in Ebonyi. You cannot apply what I'm saying. And the rest of what, look at the report of the CNN. We may not appear like a serious country to them because they understand clearly that the structure, the security structure in this country is faulty and is wrong, and we are not gravitating. After this program, Ministry of Interior and the state government have a joint program on security situation in the country. We will also express our concern today there again, and I hope the authority will listen to us that the rest of the world will not be taken us serious because they know that this is a federalism. And the state structure, the policing you are imposing on yourself is unitary. You are operating police the way you are operating the army structure. The army structure have one command structure. Go, come, left, right, left, center. Police is not like that. Police have civilian mentality, have security consciousness mentality. That's how to operate. The structure of the police that we inherited from the colonial era, we have to moderate it by now to suit what we have on ground today, to give it a face so that Nigerians will understand that I can always share my security concerns with the Nigerian police. Today,
but how do we restructure all of this, have our own police force that is community-oriented when they are not properly funded?
No, that's not an excuse. Every state,
how?
Because
you go to the police station and you have to pay for paper. You have to pay for
that is part of the problem.
That's the problem. You have to pay for fuel.
Federal government of the federal police should also bother itself with and a minimum number of officers in every state that will be able to relate with the state police. Not that the federal police must have stations in all the 36 states of the country. That's why the funding becomes difficult. But we have a minimum number of police that gathers security intelligence report and report back to the IG. It will be better monitored than thinking erroneously that you have DPOs, you have stations in all the 771 local governments in the country. Where is the funding going to come from? Allow the state to fund their security on their own. There are states that might not need state police based on their own decision that we don't have crime rate here. There are states in the country that don't have a standing army. Costa Rica does not have a standing army. You cannot say that because US have a standing army, Costa Rica must have a standing army. There are peculiarities. So for states, security becomes very important for states. And there are agencies. For instance, look at Lagos now. Lagos is one of the smartest states we have in the country because they want to convert their neighborhood into Amotekun. So salary has not increased. There are agencies in virtually all the states too that are similar to doing security on policing work in their own state too. Let them convert it to state police. So it's not going to increase their expenditure.
Now, if you
in
talking about state police as well, you also mentioned earlier about the fact that they will be under the IG and IG will be able to.
No, they are not going to be under the IG.
Okay.
There will be a law that will establish, just like the governors are not taking instruction from the president. They have their own state. Yeah. The state police do not take instruction from IG. They will take instruction. They will take instruction from the state executive council of each state. But there must be a law that will establish the right over the federal police to look at the activities of every state police, such not to exercise control, but to be able to ascertain whether they're operating within the ambit of the security.
But if the State Executive Council is overseeing the community police, why do we need the federal structure to also
why do you need the president to look at the activities of the governor? And you still want to borrow loan that will make them to perpetual, take them to perpetual slavery. The federal government will caution them. And they were cautioned in recent time that this thing, you cannot take loan again. And that's the kind of control we are seeing. Not that Mr. President will come and read the budget of each governor, state governor, will come and be the one to award contract. That's not the kind of control that's the type of control we are saying that IG will have over state. That a state police must not turn to militia of the governor. That's the kind of caution we are talking about. A state police. Now, when last did the last more official arrest PDP member, or the AP, on the basis on the fact because it's an opposition party? So that's why that's the way police operate too. People will be at the vanguard. People will lead every program of the government. People will protect every policy of the government, and that is why I am convinced beyond reasonable doubt that it is not out of control to have a state police. Why must we be different from the rest of the world? The rest of the world, they recognize the fact that a police structure, one police structure cannot offer the appropriate and the quality security program that a country desires. Because of that, there must be layer of security. The NSAS, who are calling for NSAS, we advised them, we educated them that the limitation that led to the creation of SARS is existing. And that's what we should address. The limitation is simple as this. Federal police will be intervening between wife and husband is fighting. Federal police will be doing traffic control on the state road. That's not the business of federal police. State police, like the traffic warden, it's not the business of federal police to be controlling traffic in 30 states of the federation. It's not their business. So this type of limitation and setback is what created the contradiction that compelled police to be creating committee that ended like SARS, like anti-robbery, like anti-that. Is the limitation, the contradiction that led them to that creation. Once you address the need for layers of security, the federal, the state and local government, or the region and the state, the small issues that federal police bother itself to waste their time over, they won't do that. Federal police is a mighty structure that a pot of meat is missing in my pot. You go and report to federal police. It's not the business of the federal police. Okay. So, by and large, what I'm saying is that you cannot train a federal police with taxpayers' money, and that police officer end up becoming a traffic warden, end up following one chairman.
So something bigger they have to do.
Yeah, something bigger. End up following the local government chairman, councillors, politicians, Nigerians, to parties, to birthday parties. That's not what taxpayers are paying their money to do. Okay. They pay their taxes to have proper organized police force in Nigeria, not what they have turned themselves into. So, and the earlier we do this, the better. We are getting it wrong again. We have started organizing seminars. We have started organizing programs. That is not the solution. The solution is to be courageous. We have to be courageous enough to admit that the police structure in this country today is not working. And there is no guarantee of security in Nigeria if you don't address it. We are just taking a step forward and 10 steps backward. The earlier we do it, the better. There may be another instance again. Because the community that was created about SWAT again, we will enter into the same problems enter into. Because
it's a structural problem.
They are not programmed to address the issues that are asking them to address. They cannot secure the status state of the federation. IG does not have that capacity. Not because it does not have the training, but the peculiar security situation in every country requires that there must be a layer of security.
All right. Okay, so in all of this now, you have said that states should be able to handle their own policing structure.
Yes.
Some states are not viable. Some go cap in hand to the federal government for allocations, allocations monthly. How do you think states that are not viable can also handle a security structure when some of them still owe salaries of civil servants? Don't
let us indulge governors. Don't let us indulge governors. If you have admitted, we have said it long time ago that the earlier we get to the reality that the money from oil cannot fund our economy again. We must begin to, and there's no state in this country that does not have resources. Let the governors get serious. Let them become more active. Lagos State is the smallest state in Nigeria now. Why is it that the highest population? The people of Lagos, they get serious. They created avenue to make money. Let them, Niger State is the biggest. What's the population of Niger? They have land for farming, and you are saying that they don't have money. Governors should get serious. They should be
think outside the box.
Outside the box will make money for their people. It is laziness, and it is not acceptable by Nigerians to say that you can't run your state. Okay, if you can't run your state, merge it with another state. You must get to that reality. If you cannot run the state, merge it with another state that are viable.
So we get into the same problems.
And we get to that point where if we don't change the way we raise money for our expenditure, we may begin to manage our own state, because all states must have the capacity to run their own state outside what the federal government is giving them. And resource control is another thing that we also begin to look at.
Yes, but thank you very much, Razak Olokwo, but we have to keep it out here.
It's
thank
a
you
pleasure
so much for
being with
talking
you.
to us.